Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you for inviting us here today to talk about our experiences with SharePoint. I have to say that I joined the team in November last year, and when I joined the team in November, we had already paused our SharePoint implementation. And so what we're doing now is we're reviewing what we have. We're taking this opportunity to review what we created so far and prepare for our shift into the SharePoint environment. So I'd like to start with a look at what we've already created. The University of Highlands and Islands is quite an unusual organisation in that it covers a wide area which is geographically quite dispersed, and staff within the same department can often be working from many different locations. So this has created the need for us to provide an area where staff could come together and share documents and information without having to back and forth using links, using emails, using access to hard drives, which created a lot of duplication, a lot of problem with versioning, and made, generally speaking, many work processes almost impossible. So we began by creating our SharePoint hub, and it's a combination of team site areas and team site areas which also include document libraries depending on the work processes that each team, each section, each department uses. A few things about it. We created this document hub to promote and facilitate collaboration, to allow easy sharing of content amongst users, and to allow content control. The document hub meant that team sites and libraries for each sector and department could be brought together to reflect the structure of the university and give people more ownership over the processes that they're creating. A common area was created to store records, which you can see there at the top. And we're using the SharePoint environment for active document management, as well as in-place records management. So I'd like to look now at what we're doing behind that. We're aware, on my team I have a SharePoint developer, so he's taking care of the technical side of it, but we're aware that it's very difficult for users to move into a SharePoint environment from hard drives, from shared drives, and from other environments. So we've been working a lot with them because we realize it involves a significant change in culture, a significant culture shift. So we've been investing time and working closely with them to make sure the SharePoint environments meet their expectations and requirements. So we've organized this into 3 phases. The first phase is involving 3 main areas. The first phase is involving the information audits and preparatory work. And we're using this to understand how current environments function, looking at the advantages and limitations of these environments. And we're also thinking about how to improve records management and work processes. This phase is giving users the opportunity to prepare content in folders and files on hard drives, on shared drives, and wherever else they have their information, to clear out, they're clearing out redundant and defining legacy records, and we're also implementing our file naming procedure. We have implemented a classification scheme, and so we're looking at the classification scheme at the moment and mapping record series to record groups. We're also looking at the retention schedule and reviewing where necessary to meet business requirements which could have changed in the past few years. This phase is also being used to compile the file maps for document types and information flows for each department and section. The file maps will be used to inform the creation of workflows within SharePoint and define levels of information security and access to records and documents. We will be including this information in protocols for sharing, as this is something that we've been asked for by our users. And this will allow users to share information and share records across and out with the university environment, making sure that we're compliant with all legislation. Sorry, I can't find my notes, so I'm using my paper version. So, metadata sets. We've used the JISC Higher Education Business Classification Scheme as a base for the UHI scheme, as we feel that it allows us to plan for future developments into new areas, and it covers all the current fields of university activity. So we've taken this classification scheme and we've applied it in the managed metadata service to manage the metadata across the university, so we have standardization, and so terms can be managed centrally. The scheme can also be used across document libraries, sites, site collections, and web applications, and is being used to configure the automatic retention schedule assignment at document level. So what this means in practice is that when documents are used and tagged up with the classification scheme, it will allow the classification schedule to be applied automatically, and when the classification scheme comes up for review, it will be sent to the records, or documents will be sent to the records management officer as well as the document owners, and we will be able to take a decision for disposal or for archiving. So this is going to allow us to standardize that across all of our departments. This will allow us this combination of departmental charts, file maps, information flows, centralized scheme for metadata, classification scheme, and retention schedule will allow us to describe documents more efficiently and increase the efficiency and accuracy of searches and disposals, creating an accurate picture of the information held by the university and the locations it's held in. This will ensure we're fully compliant with the FOISA and the data protection legislation. So, preparation. Meanwhile, we've been working with users at departmental and group levels and section levels, and we're implementing the classification scheme on our shared drive and hard drive content. And this is helping people see how documents can be tagged in SharePoint and how they can make the transition from using folders, which we are using on our T drives and our share drives, to classification scheme tagging, which we will be using in the SharePoint environment. Once in SharePoint, the standard set of classification scheme metadata is used with other tags to personalize displays to suit the different workflows and patterns using views function. So the metadata collated from information audits, such as academic year, committees, partners, document category, and other descriptors, have produced a useful set of terms. These terms are then used in columns on drop-down menus for tagging to describe documents accurately. Some terms are used across the university, while others can be specific just to one particular team area. Using columns for tags and for describing documents allows room for metadata to develop as processes and requirements change. in the course of, of work processes. So moving down to document level, we've created a document type called UHI document, and this is being used to hang the classification scheme on, and the classification scheme field was made mandatory to ensure all content was tagged according to it. So this will allow us greater flexibility because we're going to be creating a much richer data set of metadata. Moving on to the second phase, we're working closely with staff at departmental, section and group or individual levels to understand how environments can be crafted to meet their work processes. We're looking at document and content types from file maps and using these to accommodate terminology terms in metadata, and we're also using these to facilitate and standardize tagging and searches. We've trialed the use of workflows to implement business processes on documents. And we've looked at how information is created in the organization and how it flows through the work processes in the different departments and sections, as well as across the university. We've noted there are processes involving input from several members of staff across the different geographical locations, and we've noted processes involving the creation of different document types. So we've discussed and are designing workflows using that information that can be created from this in SharePoint. For example, a workflow to automatically send documents on to the person in the next stage for completion or editing for our project-based workflows. And we're also creating workflows where selecting content type automatically creates a template with preset fields already completed. So just a quick look at how we're using routing. So what we're doing in order to implement this is we're creating the content types and the hierarchy. And the next stage is to associate the metadata with content types. And then the content types are enabled for use with the library, in the library. And then we will create the workflows and associate these with the content type. Moving back to looking at our users, we've also worked on preparing the SharePoint team areas. We want areas to be easy to use and flexible enough to accommodate needs, adapting rather than dictating to requirements. So we aren't creating a one-size-fits-all environment. One of the ways we are working with user requirements is by creating environments to suit different work processes. So we're working a lot with views and working with the metadata sets we've created for each area. This allows us to create record sets, and the record sets can then be used to configure views that staff personalize for either private or public access. And they can also use the option for displaying on multiple device types, which opens up their audiences and allows a wide range of devices to access information efficiently. So this is just a small example of this, a brief example of this. So what we've done with this one here is we've created a view and we've personalized it. So users will only see the documents that they need to see. We'll have a look at this back. We'll have a look at this again later. But this allows people to work in environments that will suit their particular work processes. So preparing the SharePoint team areas, we understand from discussions we've been having with our users that permissions are vitally important. It's very important that permissions are adjusted accordingly for each area to ensure compliancy with data protection and freedom of information legislation, and give people those private spaces that they need to work in when they can't share certain types of data and information with other groups. We're also using the links in the SharePoint areas to build up a set of tools and guides for each team. So each team area includes a basic set of tools in terms of organizational and team charts, a team file map, the classification scheme to provide an overview, and a set of short how-to guides with screenshots and team calendars. We have had one success story of creating the SharePoint team area for a specific objective, and we've started sharing with others outside the organization. So a special area was created for our quality assessment process, and using SharePoint to do this, we created a secure environment to share information with users in geographically dispersed locations across the world, and working with the views option in SharePoint allowed us to craft an area which users could access from anywhere in the world on any device. We recreated a simple display that clearly marked the different types of documents and allowed easy navigation. Users could open any document types easily on any device using the web app, and they could edit any document types easily on any device, also using the web app. So this kind of implementation of SharePoint has been something that has attracted users to their SharePoint areas. Next steps, well, there's still a lot to be done. As sections and departments move into the SharePoint area, more training sessions will be introduced to help staff maximize their environments. We're doing a lot of hands-on work with people, so we're interested really on getting people's skills up to scratch so they can start to feel more empowered about their work processes. We hope to introduce a community area where people can share tips and ask and answer questions. We're looking at implementing new tools to improve information sharing across the university, and compiling sharing protocols to help people do this effectively, and as well as complying with legislation. We've trialed a migration tool, and we will be using this to move our data into the SharePoint areas. So instead of asking users to tag up any existing information we have on the drives, we're using our migration tool to maintain that metadata set and transfer it in, so we don't need to repeat this activity. We've started working on our governance document to set out how the environment will develop and be regulated. And our final aim is to create a secure and regulated environment where independent users can take the lead on designing functionality, can use new tools that are coming into the online environments every day, and use this environment to share expertise across the organization and create an efficient and effective records management environment. Thank you very much.